and I just want to work 20 hours. And in their brain, what they're thinking is, I want to work less. But what's actually happening is in their brain, they're thinking, I want to work less without my income collapsing, which puts them in a tailspin of keeping on doing the same thing they've always done, which just keeps that going. Rather than taking a stop and a breather and going, hang on a minute, what I'm currently doing isn't going to get me to a 20-hour business. We want the changes that you need to make, because if you just have a goal of, I want to work 20 hours, but you're afraid that you're going to lose income, you're going to just be in a tailspin forever. Change can be hard, but if you know where you're heading, at least you understand why you're making the change. I think that change is harder when you don't understand the context. Welcome to today's episode of Business Growth Lab. Leon, thanks for joining me for another episode. We're back in the hot seat. Have we been back in the hot seat for January? I can't even remember.
I'm not sure, but it feels like January's almost over. But
Well, that's because it is.
oh yeah, that's right.
I know, and technically, the year of the fire horse hasn't even started. I
A
think
what?
this year is going to be a speedy one. I was chatting to my coach about it, and we were having a little bit of a laugh, saying, "Oh my god, it hasn't even started. Doesn't come." I think the energy, like Chinese New Year, I think 17th of February. And we were saying, oh my goodness, it hasn't even started. And it feels like it has. We're like, how is this going to go moving forward?
Oh geez.
Anyway,
Well, I think I missed that part because I thought it started already. So-
no, we're in the one universal year, so that started, but the actual fire horse energy hasn't come in yet. Anyway, let's jump into today's episode, because we want to just really get into it today, because I want to talk about a topic we want to talk about a topic that has been coming up over and over in our conversations lately, and that's around creating a coaching business and working only 20-hour weeks. And there is a lot of marketers that are talking about it being possible. There's a lot of people that say it's not possible, and we want to break this down. But I want to start off by saying that 20-hour a week coaching business isn't actually a time goal. We're going to shift your perspective here. It's actually a business model. So if you want to have a 20-hour a week coaching business, you need to listen to this episode, because it really is about creating the business model that supports your goal. And I think this is the piece that people miss.
yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of stigma around this whole thing as well because marketers, I think, have probably killed some of it. The whole
Oh, you
20-hour week
think?
thing. But I think there's probably some probably sticking points in people's brains around like how to actually get it to a 20-hour work
Yeah.
week as well. But what do you think is like one of the biggest things that like stop people from actually like leaning into it?
I think because they try and plan it from the beginning. It's like, well, here's where I am today, and I just want to work 20 hours. And in their brain, what they're thinking is, I want to work less. But what's actually happening is in their brain, they're thinking, I want to work less without my income collapsing, which puts
Mm,
them in a
yep.
tailspin of keeping on doing the same thing they've always done, which just keeps that going. Rather than taking a stop and a breather and going, hang on a minute, what I'm currently doing isn't going to get me to a 20-hour business. And that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about the changes that you need to make, because if you just have a goal of, I want to work 20 hours, but you're afraid that you're going to lose income, you're going to just be in a tailspin forever.
Yeah. And I can see how that could be totally uh, like the wrong mindset in the back of your brain all the time about losing your income or income collapsing. So I think you're coming from the wrong place there.
Totally. And let's face it, we do see this with some of our clients. They're like, but hang on a minute, I need to do all these things to keep the income going, without thinking, hang on a minute, what do I need to insert so I can pull that other stuff out first? Because just keeping on doing the same thing isn't going to work. So I think we should just dive into it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now I know change is hard, but we need to talk about some of
Yep.
these things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, here's the thing, right? Change can be hard, but if you know where you're heading, at least you understand why you're making the change. I think that change is harder when you don't understand the context. You're laughing at me. What did I
Yeah, I thought I was
say?
about to get coached. I was waiting for the change is hard, but what if it wasn't?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
maybe.
left that one wide open.
Uh, No, I wasn't going to coach you because I think that that is right. Change is hard. And the reason it is hard is because it's like that in your brain.
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't feel comfortable, and let's not pretend like some of these things they can be difficult because you've got to change a whole heap of belief patterns. You need to change a whole heap of ways you're doing things. You have to, I guess, essentially go through an ego death of, hey, I like this is the way I did it, and you think, oh, I don't want to be wrong, or I don't want to, anyway, all the things. Yes, so it is hard,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think when you know where you're heading, at least you've got the okay. This is hard, but it's going to be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. So, first thing we wanted to bring up, and this is a good
Hmm.
one, and I always find it's a very interesting conversation with clients, is going from one on one to group coaching. Leverage,
Yes.
you could call
Yep.
that.
Yes, absolutely. Because when you're only doing one on one, your calendar is your ceiling. So when we have clients coming to us saying, hey, we want more leads, but we don't want to work more, and then dig their heels in the sand and say they only want to do one on one, it's like, well, you,
Yeah.
you can't have it all.
It's almost like the next step from selling time for money. Like
Yeah,
it's almost like you have like an hourly rate. Well, you kind of do because you're capped. Like you can't go any bigger with it. Like once you're maxed out in hours, that's it, you're capped. So you're not far off being on a wage essentially. You're capped and that's what you can do.
totally. Absolutely. So, yes, it's moving from that one on one model to a group model. I would say the biggest problem that we hear back from our clients regarding moving from one-on-one to group was, I wish I had have done it sooner.
Hmm.
If, as they spend weeks and weeks and sometimes months going, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I'm too scared, I'm going to lose clients, I'm too scared, I can't figure out how to do it, even though we're coaching them along the way, this is how you do it. And then suddenly when they actually make the change, they're like, oh, that was it, I wish I had have done that sooner. So that's the biggest problem that we see, is they wish they had have done it sooner.
I think the other thing as well is that you can help more people this way. Like
Yeah.
that's a big for me. It's a big thing because I like helping people, and I think if you
Yes.
realize how much you can actually help a lot more people and have like a greater net effect on a whole lot more people. So I think that's one of the things I look at. So that's why I like it as well.
Yeah. Do you know what I noticed going from one on one to group is that when I moved to group, I had to become a better coach. I had to come up with an actual system to be able to take my clients through. So it made me a better coach, because when you coach one on one, essentially you don't need to prepare that much. Someone comes onto the call, they tell you what their problem is, and you work it out in real time. Where you can't do that when you're in a group. You need to have some sort of framework. So it actually made me a better coach, and it made me pull all of the IP out of my head, instead of like just going with the flow and coming up with a system to walk people through. So the delivery is different from that perspective, but also facilitating a group is different. So you have to up your skill set, because it's a lot easier to deliver one on one than it is to a group. What I've found with group coaching, both from an attendee, we've been in group programs for well over 10 years now, and also for my clients, is that I feel you learn more in a group program. Like, I get on the coaching calls where we're being coached and other people ask questions, and you're like, oh, holy moly, I didn't see it that way, or I didn't think about that, or I didn't even understand that was a question. And you learn so much more. in a one-on-one, I find you're only living in your own little reality, right? When you're in a group program, you realize that there's all of this whole other world that you didn't even know existed. Also, as a coach, I find it really beneficial for the same reason, because when someone asks that question, you can help facilitate the rest of the group understanding, oh, actually, I didn't see it that way, and helping them to kind of integrate it further. So I love group coaching. I personally think it's better than one on one.
Yeah. So a couple of things there. You did talk about the fact that there's more people, well, asking questions. And I say that as in people ask questions that you might not have thought about as someone that's in the group program. And the other thing is that it gives you way more data as well. So as the coach
Mm,
yourself, you're actually gaining way more data to be able to be even more effective in what you're
mm.
delivering as well. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's definite, like it's a win-win for both sides there. So
Totally.
yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about item number two, and that's content, because you do need to create content for your organic social media, for your paid ads. You need to create content that goes out there. Even if you're not on social media, you still need content, right? Whether it's blogs or whether it's some sort of marketing, you cannot run a business with zero content. Gosh, I was creating content in the 90s before we even were using the internet, because I was writing articles for newspapers and I was writing advertisements that went out on letterbox, deliveries or editorials or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you do need to create content. However, you can build content either as a hobby or as a pipeline. So you need a content plan that is a system, so that it stops that daily what should I post like spiral, and creates consistency without burnout, which must have message repetition, which is how buyers actually decide to buy from you. And it must have a direct route to leads, not just likes. So you need to create content that brings all of those pieces into place.
Yeah. Now, we just talked about the group coaching before as well. And one of the things that I want to bring up is knowing your niche and your message so that your
Mhm.
content is going in the right direction. Now,
Mhm.
we were chatting this morning as we went and got coffee, and we were talking about, so in the 90s, right? You paid for like yellow pages, you paid for advertising, you
Mhm.
paid for letterbox drops, all that kind of thing. Now,
Mhm.
there's some kind of weird thing at the moment where people go that the barrier to entry to getting online with online business is
Uh-huh.
really low. You can do it from your phone, you don't need a laptop, and you don't even need a website and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Well, that's great. But I think what you might find is that speed becomes a question of money and you
Mhm.
putting like some money behind it. So yes, you can grow organically. Yes, you can get lucky, which is what you might find
Mhm.
a lot of people do. But the point uh, we're at now with the way the world is in the social media world is that you need to have organic plus paid to actually get
Yes.
moving. So I think that's something to
Absolutely.
be aware of. And
Yeah.
particularly if you want to be, growing a business, then you
Yeah.
might need to put some leverage into that.
Absolutely. When you're putting money behind it, that creates time, that creates speed. I'd forgotten that we had that question, because we were talking about someone that spent, you know, multiple six figures in his first 6 months, but earned multiple millions very quickly.
Yep.
So if he had have held back and not put that money in, yeah, he would still be a business, but it wouldn't be where it is now.
Yep. Absolutely.
You do hold yourself back. No, let's not. We're not suggesting you putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into your business. That's not what we're suggesting at all. But what we are saying is that you do need to put money into paid marketing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Like we said, you need to have a plan for that content. You need to be very clear on who your ideal client is, what your message is. Create your content in advance so it has that pipeline from people finding you through to getting a lead, like bringing them through. When you're creating on the fly, it's very hard to do that daily. You need to plan it out in advance so you know exactly what am I promoting, how am I bringing people through, What are all of these stages of the pipeline? How are you getting people to know you exist? How are you getting people to raise their hand and saying, I'm interested? How are you going to bring them through and educate them on what you do? How do you build that know, like, and trust? How do you get them to take the next step so that they then say, hey, I'd love to work with you? And yeah, that definitely needs a system. It doesn't just happen by accidenti. You can't just expect that to happen. So I think that and we've talked about this a lot in multiple episodes recently, is the trust factor
Yep.
is
It's
a lot
huge.
harder to get now.
Yep.
So we do recommend that you have some sort of long form content as well as your short form. So by short form, we're meaning your social media, your reels, your posts, your carousels, all of that. We also recommend a long form platform. So whether that's a podcast or whether it's YouTube, you need somewhere to bring people through so that they can learn more about you, to get a feel for who you are, what you know, the way you do things, what makes you unique. Because if people can do that, it does speed up the process of getting them to know you.
Yeah. Yeah. Content is like it's like the yellow pages now, isn't it? It's what it is.
Yeah.
And that trust factor is huge, but the amount of time you need to be in front of someone saying the same thing is quite long. And I've heard from 47 minutes to 7 hours. So,
Mm,
exactly what it is probably different for each person, by the way. But,
yeah.
like you said as well, different things hit for different people because some people might be short form consumers and some people might be long form consumers, and
Yeah.
particular types of people like me, for example, is I want to watch a long form and I want to know all the details and all the things about it. And that's the way I am. So I would need to see your long form content before I go and work with you, kind of thing, because that's what I want
Well,
to see.
let's just talk really, really quickly before we move on about how we found our last coach. They'd been in
Hmm.
our world for actually quite a few
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and
Yep.
we both consumed their short form content. And then we went on a road trip and we listened to 3 podcast episodes and went, that's them.
Yep. Yep.
So
100%.
that was how it worked for us, and we find that that's generally how it works for the clients that come to us as well.
Yep. Yeah.
That's it's that organic, it's that short form that brings you into the world until you go, all right, I need to know more. You move to the long form, and that's when you make the decision. It's either a yes or a no.
Yeah. So as an example, that would have been hours of content.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously.
yeah. It was a few hours of content, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. So
And make sure that I think the other piece, so we've talked about the short form, the long form, that's how people find you, the messaging, but also make sure that your content points somewhere. Are they moving into your DMs? Is it a lead magnet? Is it a webinar or an online workshop? Is it a sales call? Like it I think this is just my take on it. I think that a lot of people took Gary V's, remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, his jab, 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 right hook. That could have even been 10 years ago now. Maybe even back in like 2014,
yeah,
2015.
I think it
Can't
was.
remember, but it was a
Yeah.
while ago. And I think people took it too far and went jab, 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 jab. And then go, oh, now I feel a bit weird doing a right hook. I honestly think you need to right hook more than every third jab, to be honest, because you don't know when someone's watching your content. They don't go, oh, well, you've just turned the lights out on me. Like, essentially, what if I want to go and find more about you? I don't think it's a problem. We're business owners. I think it's quite okay to say we're here trying to make a
Well,
sale.
that's what I was about
If
to
you don't want
say.
to
Like, we're
buy, that's
business owners,
okay.
so if you don't wanna buy the thing, then that's okay as well,
Just
and I
don't
think it's
buy it.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. But how do you know, like, if a certain percentage of people are ready to buy now and a certain amount of people are ready to buy later, but you don't know where they are on their journey too, because someone could have also binged the hell out of whatever your podcast is, for example, and they might be ready to buy. And if you don't ask them for the sale for another 6 months, they're going to go somewhere else. You lost them.
100%.
So
100%.
yeah,
It's like walking into a shop and there's no one behind the counter, like there's no one to serve you at all. Now, If someone comes and says, "Hey, can I help you?" You just go, "Oh, no, thanks, I'm good." Or, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me?" That's essentially what a call to action is. So if you don't provide some sort of call to action, it's like this person's walking into your shop and there's no one even there, which happened to me the other day in Nora
Mhm.
Head, and it was
Yep.
very weird.
Yeah,
There
it was
was
odd.
literally no one in the store. I was like, I'm a bit freaked out now. Like, I'm
I
scared that
was
someone
just
thought I was going to steal something, so they didn't get the sale. I was there to buy.
so you left, right?
So yeah, that's right. That's what it would feel like with no call to
Yeah.
action.
Yeah. And so this can also feel a bit overwhelming sometimes, but as you just talked about it and you mentioned it before, was you could have a system for that, which is our next point.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about. Thanks for looping us back. So let's talk about number 3, the third item, is that you need to have multiple systems in your business so your business runs without your brain. Because if your business is running on the decisions that you're making by the minute, your business is you, and it can't be. To work 20 hours a week, it has to be systems. And I remember years ago, Leon, we this was before we even lived in Noosa. We went on a recce tour. we went up
Yep.
to Noosa, and we went camping with some other family members, and we went up, and I didn't even check in with my team for the week. Like, we went up there for a week. Our team ran it. Our clients at the time didn't even know we'd gone away because the business was running on the systems. The team knew exactly what needed to happen every single day. And I think this is the unsexy part that buys you freedom. Like, people are like, "Oh, it's really hard." Like, I'm so sick of hearing it's really hard to build systems. Well, yeah, you can either. I know, because it annoys me. It's like, well, either build the
Oh
systems or keep
dear.
working in your business. Like, your choice. I'm not going to make you do anything. But it's these systems that make your business repeatable. They make it trainable, like, less emotionally heavy. It's it's the unsexy part, and it's the part that sometimes isn't that fun, but I can tell you what, on the other side of creating them is really fun. So it's like do the sprint of creating the systems and then take the rest, or do the marathon that's attached to the cross country, that's attached to the 800 meters. You just get to decide which run you're going on, and I'll take the sprint and the rest any day. Thanks.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me with the systems is scalability. So it's just the biggest things. The other part is the ability for you to move into the CEO mode,
Yeah,
like the leadership
yeah,
mode of it. Because if you have all your cognitive load absolutely chocked full of admin tasks, where is you know the CEO mode where you're actually going, well, what's the things that my clients need? How do I improve them? What can we do better? How can I serve my clients better? All that kind of thing. If you're not moving into that section and you're stuck back in the admin task, then you're not really going to be going anywhere. So you can't scale, you can't grow. And I don't think you're really providing your clients with the best possible trainings and that kind of thing as well. So what you're
totally.
giving to them.
Totally. So let's talk about the minimums of the systems that you need. Number one is lead capture. Like, how do you bring leads in? Where do they go? How are they tagged? How are they nurtured? It's that whole lead pipeline. Sales, from how leads are moving from the or how someone's turning from a lead into the sale to the conversation. How are you getting them to make a decision? And how are you bringing them through cleanly into delivery? Because it's not like sales and then delivery. It's actually like this continuum that goes from, all right, I'm going to give you my credit card. You move into delivery at that time that you get that little green tick on the checkout, right? They come straight in or straight through, because then it's like, well, how are we onboarding them? How are they getting access to your curriculum? What's the call cadence? How does that work? What's the delivery and the support? And then there's like retention, referrals, like, it goes on. Think about everything that happens in your business and how is that a system?
Yeah. So just mentioning those parts as well, you can see how many systems you need to have, because if you try to think about all those things together every day, you're gonna have a meltdown. So
Totally. Can I just say there's one thing that I didn't mention, because what we've done is we've said, all right, well, to get from where you are now to the point where you can take a week off and essentially your business runs, which is a business, it's meant to be that, right? It doesn't happen overnight. And this is the piece I think that people miss. They're like, oh my God, I'm in the operator role. Well, yeah, because you need to build these systems so you can get out of it. It's not like one day I'm in an operator role and the next day I'm in a CEO role. All right. It does require a changeover period. It doesn't just happen overnight. In my first business, it took me 5 years. And the reason it took 5 years is because that was a traditional business and it took me that long to bring enough team in piece by piece by piece to be able to say, all right, well, that's what this person does because that's their role. That's what, person B does because it's their role. In a coaching business, it doesn't take 5 years. It can be done much, much quicker. And we did it much quicker. But it's still, there's still that messy middle. There's still that process in the middle. And sometimes, and I think that this is a piece that marketers lie about, there can be some really long hours in there,
yeah,
some really long hours. And there can be some real, I was about to swear. I can't think of a way to say it without swearing. Like it messes with your head. Like, you can you can really push up against a wall. There are things where you're like, I don't know how to do this, or I can't figure the way through. But it's just part of the process.
yeah.
But if you don't persevere with that, you end up being in a job forever. So it's like you do get to choose.
Yeah. I think I'd like to say just there quickly before we move on is that
Yep.
you might need to do the things that other people won't to get what they haven't got, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because you want to be the business
100%.
owner. We don't want to be the worker, the wage, you know, taker kind of person. And you might need to do the hustle to get to where you
Yeah.
need to go.
Yeah.
So,
And that doesn't mean that we're suggesting that you work 20 hours a week for 5 years. That's not what we're suggesting at all. But there are some days where you just have to push through.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things with systems is that anything that's repeatable needs to have a SOP, and I know you're very well versed in that from being Macca's,
Yeah,
because
being a Macca's chick and
yeah,
McDonald's
yeah,
definitely is just, they've got more SOPs. I don't know if it's still the case, but certainly back in the 90s, early 2000s, most companies, this was the gold standard. I remember my uncle was very high up in National Australia Bank and he was in training and development. And I remember he came to me and my ex husband, who was also Macca's, and he was quite high up in management, going, "What can I do to pay you for one of those manuals?" Which we didn't do. For anyone that's listening, we did not hand them
yeah,
over.
from McDonald's, we didn't do that.
We did not do that. But that's
Oh.
how highly regarded they were.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something I also learned from my years in corporate as well. The other thing is I find it's really good is to work your way into a rhythm. As a CEO, to make sure you're spending the time doing things you need to do. And lastly, I think you want to have a chat about this quickly, and this is about data and the important role that it
Totally. Well,
plays.
this is off the back of your rhythm comment. There's two things that we do in our business and we do with our clients every single week. And that's number one is we start the week with two documents. Number one, our weekly KPI scorecard. And the reason that we start the week with a weekly KPI scorecard is you start to learn as you're entering your data, as you're entering what's there, you actually start to see what's moving the needle. And you start to learn, oh, those other 20 things that I was doing that was keeping me busy actually isn't moving the needle. So what about I don't do those things? So you start to see very, very clearly. It takes a little while and a little bit of practice, but you start to see what's moving the needle. That's number one. And the second document we use is called Win the Week. And Win the Week is just a document where it's reflecting on the week past, looking forward into the week ahead, being very clear about spending time on the needle movers. And the needle movers are the things that are going to move your business forward. And the reason that we start the week with those two documents is it's like sharpening the axe. So you can just get it done. It helps you to understand what's moving the needle. It helps you to get really clear, especially as you move into the week and you start getting more tired, or, you start having 40 different people asking for different things. And it's like, you can get off track when you've got your win the week. You're like, today, these are the three projects that we're working on, and let's just work on these three projects. And all of those other people that are putting their hand up saying, this is urgent, it's like, no, it's actually not. So it helps you to get really, really clear. So we suggest 110%. There was a week over Christmas that we didn't do this early in the year, right, Leon?
Hmm.
Where we're like, it's early in the year. It doesn't matter. We won't do our KPIs and our win the week this year. That was such a mistake. And we know this stuff. But I think what it did was really prove how important this is, because that week was just wasted. We may as well just have been down the beach, really.
Yep.
So, yeah, start the week by sharpening your axe, do your KPIs, get really clear on the week ahead, and that'll set you up for success.
Yeah. So one of the things that, and what you're talking about there with the data particularly, is that it allows you to see things that you can then automate. All right. So this is
Mm-hmm.
our next point. And
Yep.
anything that you do that's repetitive that could be done by, well, either someone else or something else,
Mm-hmm.
should be done by someone else or something else. So in this case, if it's something that you can automate, you should do that straight away to give you the time back that you need to do the more of the CEO work.
Totally.
I mean, in this case, it could be, let's look at things like it could be like new lead follow up, for example.
Yep.
Rather than you saying like, I'll email them later on, and then you forget about it because you're too busy doing something else, or you've got to drive for, or so you've got to go and, see clients or whatever it is, so you get busy, right? So then you don't
Yep.
get back to it. Maybe it's post webinar sequence
Yep.
that you might want it sent out. Like, you shouldn't be doing it manually. It should be automated so you don't have to think about it. So the lower that cognitive load. So I know you're a fan of automation, Sam.
I am, and I think automation. You mentioned a few things, but client onboarding, getting testimonials, sales, booking confirmations, all of those things. Automation doesn't necessarily mean it gets done by a piece of software or an app. It it might even be the automation is that a little note gets flicked off by someone on your team so they take over, but it's still automated in that it just flows off to where it needs to
Yep.
go. So the goal here isn't to automate a relationship, it's to automate the admin around the relationship, so the relationship can be nurtured or supported. So, if you want to be working just 20 hours a week, you definitely need some sort of automation to nurture leads and follow up with leads. Definitely sales follow ups are scheduled. Like, this is at those two things. It's absolutely crucial, because if you want to work the 20 hours without losing your income, you need those sales to be coming in. So that's why it's so important. It's not optional. You also need your onboarding to be automatic and not manual. So, yeah, they're definitely must haves.
Awesome.
So, I mentioned that automation doesn't need to be software and app, it can be a team, which brings us to point number 5. And our final point is you will need some sort of support. So, a VA that will eventually or could eventually turn into a tiny team. No, I know that there are some people out there that have 7-figure businesses just with one team member. I prefer to have multiple team members because I like people to be well versed in different parts of the business. I don't think there's any one person that's like a superhero that can do everything. And I feel like I like to have different people in my team. It makes me feel a little bit safer when someone's on holidays or when they're sick, or someone that is really good at web development, for example, is not the right person for admin. But essentially, it doesn't matter whether you choose one VA and you want it to turn into a tiny team, or if you just want to stick with one VA. It isn't a luxury. It's actually the bridge out of being the bottleneck in your business. And that VA will remove that massive invisible time drain. And I say invisible because you feel it, but you can't see it, of all that time you're spending in your inbox or scheduling calls in your calendar, follow ups, uploading stuff, posting stuff, repurposing stuff. I don't think this is someone that should be creating your content. I am a big believer that you should be creating your own content, because right now in this world of like tacky AI, because we're not into like super, super duper AI yet for creating content, I think that your superpower needs to be your own words. But once you've created those words, hand it to someone else. That all needs to be done, yeah, by
Yeah.
someone else helping you out with that admin, that uploading kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm a fan of also running mean and lean, which I don't think is actually a problem. But there
Hmm.
is a point where you go that you need to have the right people there to help you as well. And even considering
Yeah,
things like, yes, there is we know the people are out there that do have like one VA and run a 7-figure business, stuff like that. Depending on what your business model is as well, it can be different. But there's also nothing wrong with having part timers rather than full timers. So you might have, two part timers rather than one full timer. And it also gives you more stability as well, because you have the, that, well, there's two people rather than one. So
yeah,
that also helps. Now, the other part of it is, this is where the hustle comes in. And if you do it knowing that it's hustling for the right reason, of getting up to speed quickly, and making sure that you've got the task handed over to them the right way the first time. Yes, it's a bit of hustle. Yes, it's a bit of time, but the long run is just so much better, because they got that. They get that first task, the second task, the third task, the fourth task. Before you know it, they're really supporting you, and you can go do what you need to
yeah.
do. So there's still hustle, but it's so worth it.
Oh, so much. So if you're listening to this and you're the person doing all the small stuff, just understand you'll never get your 20-hour business without losing that income that we're talking about, because that's the small stuff that multiplies. You want your VA to own your operations lane so that you can stay in the creation and the delivery lane, okay? Because that's your zone of genius as a coach. So as we mentioned before, you need all of these 5 areas in your business, and you need to create that weekly operating rhythm so that you can get there. Now, if you want the 20 hours, but you don't really know what your bottleneck is. Like, you may have been listening to the episode and thought, oh, it's all 5, and you don't know which one to work on first, because please, please, please don't work on all 5 first. You will end up just spinning your wheels forever. Um, if you don't know what to work on first, or if you've been listening and saying, I don't even understand like which one needs to change or how to change it, then we've put together a free bottleneck audit. It's just 14 quick questions. It takes about 2 minutes to go through this quiz. It will spit out your answer, and it will give you your next 3 next right moves to make. So all you need to do is go to samanthariley.global/audit. And like I said, it takes 2 minutes to go through, and it will give you a little bit of a breakdown of how it's playing out in your business and exactly what to do next. So link will be down below so that you can jump in and do that. Leon, thanks so much for joining me for another episode. I actually really love this topic, and I get passionate about it. You probably hear it at certain times of the episode, because when we can create a business that not only gives us our time back, but gives us the income that we need to be able to create this life that we really want, like, how much would the world change? How much less road rage would there be at 9 o'clock in the morning because people are running late for work? Like, it literally changes the world. It makes it better for us, for our partners, for our families, for our children, for our friends. Yes. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Some of these topics that we just talked about today, I feel like we could do like a couple more podcast episodes on each one of them. I just love talking about them as well. So, but I think you're right. Just I think how much help and how much difference it can make to your life and your family and your clients' lives and all those kind of things as well. Like how much more you can offer by just implementing some of these things.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week on another episode of Business Growth Lab.